Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is Sunday, November 13th, 2022. Some ways I just can't even believe this year flew by. I'm here with this week's Traversing the Transits with Teri Hunter, and I think it is continuing to be an amazing time for all of us who have incarnated at this point in history. I want to start off giving you just a little bit of business. The weekly readings are based on whole sign Western astrology. I am an intuitive astrologer. So what I do is I look at the transits and then I meditate and I talk to spirit about the transits. So I take what I've learned from astrologers and I marry that with what I know intuitively from spirit. The more I've done this work, the more I tend to enjoy the Placidus system. But for these weekly readings, I go by whole sign. It seems to be the easiest to comprehend. But if you are at all a little familiar with your chart and you put it in Placidus, when you're looking at the house structure, if you've got two different signs covering one house, these are aspects you're going to want to look at, which are layering you and giving you detail about your soul's contract. So, all right, good morning, everybody. Good morning, small wildflowers. Good morning, Vasilia. Good morning, Margie. Good morning, Lauren Kay and Catherine. It's good to see you. I know I'm not remotely done with my decorations, but I did get the tree up. I'll tell you, I think this was a really hard eclipse. I think that this has been a hard season because it's requiring us to really look at some of our own personal psychology. So let's talk a little bit about the transits this week, because I think that there's some really great opportunities. I was listening to somebody and I was listening, they're a Buddhist, and they were talking about how the very first principle of Buddhism is life is suffering. And I've always had this sort of resistance to that concept because I think suffering is on some sort of scale. There's really bad suffering and then there's maybe minor or less suffering. And when I went into spirit and I was asking them about that, they were really about talking about divine disruption, offering us divine opportunities for co-creation. And that co-creation is not really about an ascension to somewhere. Yes, we talk about raising our vibration, but that doesn't mean we're like walking up a staircase. The raising of the vibration is about being able to see things from a broader perspective. So where I'm going with this is that there are disruptive energies. There are times that we get into arguments with people. We get into disagreements. People act squirrely. They do things you never would have thought they would do. And those are actually opportunities to be aware of our co-creation. And on some level, the human will tend to victimize themselves or to feel like, why does this always happen to me? Why is this da 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 da? And what we never seem to think about is maybe, just maybe, we are standing in a vibration to offer the other party an opportunity to show up in balance. So, for instance, let's just use some mundane example, because I'm going with Mars is retrograde in Gemini. We all know that. It was stationing at 25 degrees, the Aryan degree of bravery, of truth, and of, an opportunity to either be the banshee and run around like a crazy person, or to take everything we've experienced and put the wisdom hat on. How does this serve me? And all those come in contact with me, because the square with Neptune in Pisces is offering spiritual bravery to look at, and rather than to think life sucks, why does this happen to me, why am I losing my money, why are my friends being jerks, why is my boss treating me like crap, and think, what if I am Spirit's divine device for offering that other soul in a human body an opportunity to show balance, to be kind, to speak to each other the way we would want someone to speak to us. I've been thinking about, like, I drop F-bombs all the time. It's a really descriptive word for me. But when I'm in an argument with somebody, you'll never hear me, rarely hear me drop the F-bomb, because it's not constructive. And what it does is it actually adds to the human suffering, because it it allows the other person to feel victimized by my verbiage. So this is where I'm going, because I think that the Mars square in Neptune, and it's going to go on, we know, until March of next year. We're going to have the retrograde visiting all of the degrees up to the 8th degree before it moves forward again. And it will station at that 8th degree Mars, and that's the 8th house of Scorpio. Transformation, deep psychology. This is where I'm going with everything, because the deep psychology of ourselves gives us opportunities to rise above this current situation that we're looking at, and to see that we could potentially, in this disruptive, in this situation that appears mean or aggressive or hostile, give us an opportunity to stand in service of the other person by not mirroring the aggression, the anger, or Neptune wanting to run away and escape, wanting to just shut them up at any cost and disempowering ourselves. I think of Neptune, being in the 12th house of the very last house of the zodiac, the house of undoing. It's also the house where the physical body erodes and we become the consciousness of thought. Now let's move on from the square to Mercury, Venus, and the Sun in Scorpio, the deepest, most psychological sign of the zodiac. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar. When a planet is close to the sun, it's considered combust, meaning the sun outshines everything. And I was thinking about this, and again, in my meditation, Spirit was saying Venus representing my self-worth, as well as my possessions, my money, my beauty. But underneath the money, the beauty, and the possessions is my self-worth. It's at the Taurus degree. So this is doubling down on the Venus energy. Then we have Mercury right now, as it's 24 degrees Scorpio, which is the Piscean degree. And when we leave the physical body, we are conscious thought. We may not have this physical apparatus to act out that conscious thought, but it exists nonetheless. So as the sun, Mercury, and Venus have been hanging out in this little, they're always close together, but now they're literally conjunct one another. They're hanging out in such a close conversation that I feel like the sun is blasting so bright that it's asking the human to be egoless, to not see with their eyes, to not think with their brain, but to go deeper into an intuitive inner emotional knowing. So when I'm in a disruptive situation, when I'm in a situation when I think someone's being a total a-hole, okay, am I going to be an a-hole back to them, which just gives them a permission to be right? Or am I going to do something different? And this is not about giving up my power, Scorpio, because this is where this stellium is. And this stellium of Venus, Mercury, and the Sun is in a trine with Pluto. Pluto is our deep psychological planet, asking us to come from our heart, asking us to come from a deeper space of inner knowing. So to me, there is this, what's been going on, and what this Uranus-Saturn square has been offering us is an opportunity to break the human physical structure into a place where we're rewriting it so that we see the inherent divinity within us, the inherent light within us, and that we are pure thought. And as we don't try to change our thoughts from one thing to another, because Mercury can't do that easily. Mercury's so quick going around the zodiac that, it needs an opportunity to slow it down. So when it's next to the sun so close, it's literally has to slow down because the sun is shining so bright. If you get what I'm trying to say, it's almost like you're driving in the early morning, right? And the sun is shining on you and it starts to blind you. And this is asking, the soul is asking to see from a different place, to see from your heart chakra and your solar plex chakra, and to allow that to be your guiding light as you move forward. So this particular week, and clearly this chapter in human history, is really offering us an opportunity to start to really seek the wisdom in situations that appear to be disempowering, that appear to stoke our fears, to send us down that path of wanting to protect ourselves to the point of almost feeling a little bit too vulnerable. And I also want to offer it this way, because as you go through your weeks, and as we go through the holidays, and sometimes these things can get very tense, the holidays, I mean, I want you to offer yourselves a break and say to yourselves, if I'm starting to feel a frustrated energy, am I in a imprinted patterned thought? And is there potentially a new idea or a new perception, a new perspective? Because I think with Pluto sitting at the 26th degree, this to me is again the Venusian degree. It's what is my self-worth in this situation? Because it is a very evolved soul, and this is rather an extreme example, but when someone has been molested or has been, there's pedophiles or people that have purported inappropriate behaviors on children or on the vulnerable, this really sometimes often speaks to me that quote unquote victim is of a very high vibration, and on some level, on a soul level, is willing to stand in vulnerability to that human, to offer that human the balance of kindness, of generosity, of not abusing their power, of to be inspiring to the other party. Or let's just put it in a mundane way. When I'm arguing with someone, Mars square Neptune, am I willing to see the spirituality of me showing up the way I want someone to treat me in an argument? Because I'll tell you, if I'm in an intimate relationship, I don't want somebody calling me a bitch when they're angry at me. I don't want the person who says they love me to treat me like they don't love me when we don't agree. So, do I tell them how to treat me, or do I treat them the way I want to be treated? And then this is where it gets really rough. This is where Scorpio gets tough, because if indeed they don't align to that vibration, then it's time for things to die, meaning the relationship to die, the relationship to transform. And that takes a really brave human to trust their soul, especially when it comes to relationships where other people have power over us. So I think this is totally up for grabs over the next, obviously, this coming week, and then in the months to come as we walk through the holidays, and we're literally interacting more and more with the people that are most karmically tied to us. So I think this is really, really powerful. And I think it's really kind of a good thing. I mean, I have found myself experiencing a lot of fixed energy. There's another thing going on here. Scorpio is a fixed sign here. We also have the Saturn between Square and Uranus being in a fixed sign, or both fixed signs. And I was thinking about this too as I was drying my hair. The fixed signs are all sandwiched in the middle of their quadrant, right? There's not a little wiggle room. In the first house, we're seeing an inspiration. In the second house, we're seeing a discovery. And in the third house, we're seeing the application of that. And we kind of see that as we go through the quadrants of the zodiac. So part of the reason I think maybe that fixed energy becomes stubborn is because it doesn't feel the wiggle room yet. It doesn't feel the inspiration, and it doesn't feel the mastery yet. And it feels a little bit stuck. So when we think about the idea of Aquarius offering me an opportunity to innovate my thoughts, to apply really cosmic consciousness, universal divine laws, to really raise above the human walking on this little rock. And then we look at Uranus in Taurus offering us the same. I mean, here we have Saturn, the ruler of Aquarius, and Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius. Very, very strong synergy. And then Taurus coming in, and that landscape is saying, do you believe in yourself? Do you believe in your skills? Are you willing to risk going into territory you don't know? That's what the square is. And I don't know if I said it last week. I've been starting to phrase it this way. My interpretation of a square feels like a tense conversation with myself. It's like one side is wanting to implement a new, more aligned perception, and the other side has a habitual imprint. And there's this fight between wanting to act out one way and then knowing I've done that enough to know it doesn't work for me. It doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't solve the problem. So this is where I think the tension comes in. So, and then we get to move from the recognition of that tension into trine energies before we go into a new chapter of awakening. And when I say awakening, it's consciousness of our co-creation and how we want to filter that co-creation. So I think this is a super important building block week, is the way I want to put it, as we start to think, how is this? Because we're going to have a very, the next new moon is on the 23rd in Sagittarius, and it is at the 2nd degree, I believe, or the 1st degree. It's one of those 2 degrees. And I really think that there is some sort of interesting synergy about this new moon, really focusing in on beliefs, on a willingness to go into foreign territories in my mind, doing things different than I've ever done them before, rather than being like, no. It's about exploring. And then we have, while this is not making necessarily an aspect, but the Jupiter retrograde will be going forward the day before. I think the new moon is the day before Jupiter goes direct in Pisces. So there's a very strong stationing for that. I'm going to do a separate video. This last week, I had all sorts of disruptions, which is why I kind of was focused on that this week. If it wasn't, one thing, it was another. So, all right, let's get on with our readings. This is going to be starting with our Scorpios, and next week we'll be in Sagittarius season. All right, Scorpio, your tarot card is the Queen of Swords. Now, this is the nurturing of thought. This is the mastery in some way of thought. And I always kind of see this bird up there. It's not very prevalent. And it's almost as if this woman is aware of the energy feels as if it is aware of a greater sight, but at the same time, I'm focused straight ahead. And I want to offer it this way because Scorpio to me is riddled with opportunities if I'm willing to be brave. The sign itself offers great material wealth. It offers psychological balance and sure-footedness. But before it brings those elements in, it kind of tears things up a little bit. And when I think of Pluto, the planet, I think of the idea of that huge heart on the face of the planet, and that there's tumultuous energy underneath the surface creating that. And it's beautiful from its appearance. So as we honor the tumultuous energy underneath, and then we start to say, are my thoughts aligned to what I want to experience? And rather than trying to do this 180-degree turn, can I just slow my roll long enough to say, what is the closest thought I can come to aligning to my truth, to what I want? Because again, here we see Mercury, which represents so many things. But here with Venus right within 2 degrees of one another, it feels as if I'm constantly thinking about, what is my real self-worth? What do I really believe about my ability to make my own money, to feel safe in my material world, to be able to speak my mind and do it in a healthy manner? All right. Let's go into a little detail. And if you catch my manicure, which I'm going to try really hard not to show you, it is not a manicure anymore. It is a result of my Venus energy. Oops. All right. Scorpio, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. And again, I want to emphasize the idea that I really think the moon is important. Our emotional bodies are so pivotal to our actual manifestations. So when we start to apply the ideas of what does divine wisdom offer me during this disruptive time, during this argument with my boss, during this ghosting of a friend of mine, when they're ghosting you, when I'm meeting potential lovers and they're just not working for me. It's just like, feels like an endless string of nonsense. What am I not been willing to look at within how I'm creating? Because frustration, anxiousness, annoyance with the process and the time element is not helping your cause. Ease and surrender and sort of this willingness to say, do I want to be kind of happy or do I want to be really happy? All right, Scorpio, our first angel is Grace and Antoinette, which is all about compassion. Then we have Shanti, the angel of peace. Then we have Fiona. And then we have Desiree. Neptune rules compassion. We've got that square with Mars. It's going to be continuing on and on. And this to me is really, feels very polarizing in the sense of, am I going to do things the same old way I've always done them? Am I going to be aggressive? Am I going to call people out on the mat? Or am I going to seek a deeper wisdom? Or am I just going to escape? Am I going to eat my face off? Am I going to dive into, my bag of herbs or my bottle or whatever it is? So let's see. Okay, Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the Hawk. Shanti is being joined by the Joy card. Fiona is being joined by the Risk card. And Desiree is being joined by the Bee card. This is so powerful. Okay, so the Hawk is an 11. It rules thought, the master number of thought, rising above a situation, and not just having compassion for other people, but having compassion for the role that you play. Because if you're playing the role of the divine disruptor, you could be going through a time when you feel attacked or you feel like people are bringing up your more tense energy. And, the thing about Scorpio is that it feels tense to the outside world that wants to cling to the human experience that is out of balance. So your guides, your angels are asking you to do whatever it takes this week to find peace and joy. And part of that might be taking your hand off the wheel, meaning this, you know what? I am powerless over this situation. This last week, I had all these ideas for videos. I'd gotten some momentum the week before. I'm like, okay, I'm going to book through. You know what? I didn't do any videos this week. We had tree trimmers and we had, workmen here. And I mean, it was just kind of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I had to surrender to it because the risk right now for Scorpio is to not control a situation, to not try to make things happen. But God and the angels will give you a divine inspiration when you can calm your mind a bit, because Desiree is saying conditions aren't favorable. And then there's the Bee card. One of the most powerful things that Scorpio can do is to take the talent they have for the psychological depths of the human experience. And rather than looking at applying them to let the other person off the hook or to understand their weaknesses, it's more about, how do I want to feel about me? I know, Pluto wasn't discovered until the early 1900s. I think it was like 1930 something. I can't remember. But, it hasn't been around that long. So Mars has been the main ruler of Pluto for a long time. So we're getting this aggressive energy attacked, this stinging energy. And the truth is, the Phoenix is one of the totems of Scorpio. The eagle is one of the totems of Scorpio. So when you start to rewrite your story for you, because it is about knowing what you want to do with your talents and your gifts. And if you want to use them to really be constructive sometimes or destructive. And that's why the compassion is not just for someone else, but for yourself, as you recognize that it doesn't matter what the other person is doing. It's your being energy that is most important to you. No matter what happens, I want to feel good about my behavior. I want to feel proud of how I've evolved and how I demonstrate that into the real world. Because just that small bit of energy, that direction can pop something you cannot imagine. And that's the beauty of what's going on with Uranus right now in Taurus. It could bring inadvertently, depending on where this falls in your chart, some great bounty, some great material in the world. Hold on to it, drive it, kiss it, eat it kind of stuff in your world. Okay, let's go on to our Sagittariuses. So this is interesting because this Sagittarius new moon is directly on my natal Jupiter. And I'm hoping it's going to bring good expansion because I felt contraction lately. God bless contraction. All right. Welcome, everybody that I didn't say hi to yet. DJ and Steven. Tipo, good to see you in the room. Did I miss anybody else? All right. Yes, you spy my Christmas tree. It's part of my, when I feel frustrated and my Mars is going off and wants to just give people a piece of my mind, I know that's not going to work. I know I had this smoking issue again this week, and I got to tell you, it was really frustrating. Everybody's like, I don't smoke. And I'm like, then why do I smell cigarettes everywhere? Anyway, my natural instinct is, to go hard at it. No. I found diplomacy within my being this week that actually worked for me. It made me proud of how I was co-creating. I got a city worker to remove a sign that has been bugging me for a year. The disruption and my awareness and willingness to dig deep into my contribution in historic times is giving me an opportunity to show up different, which is starting to rewrite my experience. I may not see it in the material world just yet, but it's coming. So, Sagittarius. And there we go, 3 of Wands. This is where your ship is still out to sea. But you know what? You're starting to see signs and omens that what you are trying to create, what you want to experience, the things you want to move forward, they are attainable for you. And the reason I think this card is so full of orange and yellow colors versus the sea necessarily being blue is because it is your power and strength chakra. It is part of your willingness. Our mutable signs, sometimes depending upon the circumstances, it can feel a little bit like, you fuse into someone else. But at the same time, there's this sort of flexibility with the human experience. It's so beautiful with the mutable signs. Now we see the ruler of Sagittarius, right before this new moon, in this week teeing up to this, kind of starting to slow its roll as it moves closer to Neptune. What do I really believe? Am I going to expand on my wanting to escape, or am I going to expand a little bit on maybe this isn't about me? And even though I'm part of this situation, or I feel hurt by someone, or I feel like someone's treated me poorly, or this isn't fair, is it time to actually take action? Or if I let it sit, if I let my ships be out to sea and I keep my eye on the prize, will they find their way to harbor? Probably. Because the new moon is coming up for you. And it's coming up at the very beginning of the sign, the beginning of the process, the beginning of the energy of Sagittarius. So I really think our beliefs are up for renovation and reboot, to see the wisdom of our previous chapters versus them being the rocky, walking on broken glass road. So DJ, with most of, I don't know what kind of planets you have in the first house, but that would very much indicate that this lifetime is very much about you, about transforming you, about digging deep into what your wants and desires are, and then allowing yourself to come into balance with that Libra rising, because that 4th house is going to be in your home, in your 4th, Libra, second house of Scorpio will be your second house. And if there's a stellar, how can you have a Libra rising and a Scorpio you must be in Placidus. You're doing it in Placidus? So you're seeing your Scorpio. How can that be? It has to be the Libra, and then you must be doing it in Placidus, because that's transformation of the self. Okay. All right. So let's see. Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Thank you, Scardal. I have just started. I haven't even put any of the bulbs on the tree yet. I'm kind of waiting for a little something. I treated myself to a new skirt and some new bulbs. Okay. Sagittarius, Shanti is in the foundational position. Indriel is in the opportunity or the obstacle. Azure is in the angel's advice. And Bridget is in the final position. Thank you. All right, so joining Shanti is the Lady of the Lake. Joining Indriel is the Spider. Joining Azure is the Partnership card. And joining Bridget is the Novice. Okay, so we see a theme in the Three of Wands about we're still in process. We're still having to keep our eye on the prize. We're still having to keep a really good focus and a place of strength and power. And I think the strength and power is knowing where you can move forward and where you have to sit back and wait. This guy could do nothing to make these ships move any faster. He can't pull them into the harbor. So he's got to have a certain amount of patience and trust. The red robe is a base chakra color, and then we've got this green overlay. You've got to trust your heart going on here, because Shanti is the angel of peace, and then we have the courage to trust yourself, trust your alignment to source energy, trust that you are an eternal being, and no matter how much you fret, worry, or try to strategize or plan to move a story forward, coming from a place of fear and doubt and too much trying to move yourself. I literally feel like this is more about the courage to sit back and wait for a reveal, to feel a certain sense of peace that you've done everything you can do at this moment. And now it's Spirit's baton past you, because here we have this feels like the Spider today feels like the 11th house, the network, connections on a big level. And also it feels like the hopes and the dreams that the 11th house represents. And here's Indriel, the light worker. And I think that right now it's about sitting back and allowing yourself to feel peace as you are waiting for divine inspiration as to what is the next move for you. Because in the angel's advice is Azure saying your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. And there's the partnership card. And I don't think that's about human partnership. I think that's about your partnership with your inner being, with your divine oversoul. The human is not encasing the entirety of its soul. There's a fragment of your soul that is here in this physical, dense experience. There is a large part of you that sits outside holding space for your going under the veil. Because Bridget is saying to look deeper. There is a new beginning being offered. And this is also about skill without practice. So I want to offer it this way, because as you are waiting for Spirit to bring you more opportunities, honing your skills, continuing your study, getting a clearer vision about what you want, allowing the Sagittarian part of you to explore things you've never explored before. And let me offer it this way, because let's just say, for example, you want to get a new job and you've always gone and gotten a headhunter, and inadvertently the headhunter has pigeonholed you and you're kind of frustrated. Then maybe you find a new avenue for work. Maybe you say to Spirit, bring me a divine inspiration as to how I can align to a deeper truth of mine, and then trust the process that you will bring something to me that I cannot see with my eyes. Now let's go back to the idea that there's a stellium, the Sun, Mercury, and Venus all in Scorpio, with the Sun combusting these planets, essentially shining so brightly that my eyes are blinded. So I must feel with my heart. I got to slow my roll down and trust that inner being. I think this is the big Uranus Saturn square. I think this is the underlying opportunity with this square, and has been, is to go back to a deeper inner knowing and really deciphering whether other humans can dictate how my body feels, how my brain works, what I want in love, what makes me satisfied. And then as I claim my own diversity, then I allow others their diversity. Okay, let's go on to our Capricorns, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I kind of can't wait for the rest. I don't know if you remember last year, I did all like gold and beige and sort of monochrome colors on my tree, and it looked so pretty. I'm doing it again this year. All right, Capricorn. Lucy Rose, if you're out there in the audience, we're sending some love to you. All right, here we go, Capricorn. This is not a terrible energy. When you first look at it, it feels like people are fighting. And then there is this feeling of, are we competing? And then if you look at it even closer, it almost feels like each one of these guys is holding their wand in rather an awkward position in something that is harder than it is easier. So let's see where the potential is that Capricorn is inadvertently doing something more challenging, in a more challenging way than finding ease. We know that Pluto is at 26 degrees of Capricorn. And this is, again, it's been floating at this degree, these last degrees, the mastering degrees of the sign. And I believe this is where we're building new structures based on a whole new story. And it may feel like Capricorn this is awkward, or it's hard to do, or I feel like I'm fighting or competing with other people, but it is a bit of an illusion because you're unraveling Saturn's natural sort of wet blanket energy when it's challenging. It's natural doubting itself. It's feeling, that obligatory, fighting that duty that doesn't really serve you or your happiness. All right, here we go. Capricorn, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Chantal, the angel of romance. The second is Crystal. The third is Grace and Antoinette. And the final is Indriel. Okay. Whoops. Ooh, okay. Capricorn. Joining Chantal is Merlin. Joining Crystal is the mystery card. Joining Grace and Antoinette is the forgiveness card. And the Lady of the Lake is joining Indriel. Okay. When I look at this and I take the Five of Wands, the wands represent the fire signs. Okay. They represent, spark of creativity. We could even say it represents Mars a little bit here because Aries rules Mars. And I feel as if when I look at Chantal talks about romance, about love. I don't know that I think this is about love. It could potentially be that you want love in your life, but I'm going to say I think this is about self-love right now. I think that what Merlin is offering is justice, balance, and alchemy as you, without realizing it, allowing yourself to put your wants and desires and putting that real Capricorn builder energy into yourself right now will really benefit and serve others, even if they don't understand it. And that's why I feel like this card really is not representing arguments with other people, but sort of this awkward, uncomfortable, arduous way of interacting with others as I, Capricorn, try to claim myself and find me in the mix. Because Crystal's saying have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon that you can't see. And then there's the mystery card, which straight up represents free will and choice. Can I choose to believe in something I can't see? Because Capricorn, by nature, you're going to go through the history of this life experience and you're going to look for evidence. Where are my probabilities? I don't see them. This person expects this from me and I have these family obligations and I have to do this, blah, 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 blah. And at the same time, if there's a strong feeling of arduousness attached to it, are the people that you're obligated to feeling the benefit of your actions? Because Grace and Antoinette is about about compassion for self as you come into a situation of reconciling. The forgiveness card really is not about forgiveness for me. It's about understanding an uncomfortable situation and how it brings me benefit, how it becomes a tool of illumination, an opportunity to make a choice. Because sometimes we have to make a choice to trust an inner knowing. That's where I go back to Pluto sextiling Venus, Mercury, and the Sun. It's straight up exact sextiling Venus this week. She's moving a little bit. And this is an opportunity to really dig deep into your self-worth, because Indriel is the light worker. Okay. And then we have this energy of the Lady of the Lake, which is about you. It's about self-respect. It's about the courage to implement that self-respect. It's about the fight between your head and your emotions and holding your truth, ever so gently in the middle. And again, when I look at Indriel, this is Spirit trying to give Capricorn more evidence that these moves that you're making, these moves to allow the Saturn energy within you to transform, to be, in some respects, the builder, to be able to endure beyond other signs. And yet now we're doing it from a place where we're starting to apply spiritual structural laws to our life versus man-made structural laws to our life. Changes everything. So the suffering becomes less, and it takes less time to walk through it, because the mirage, the illusion of the human experience will lift. And as we seek the wisdom, then we're like, okay, so all right, what was I thinking about this? What is my truth about this situation? Da, 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 da. And we don't villainize, and we don't regret, and we don't crucify ourselves. Okay, Aquarius. All righty. There's the Judgment card. This is literally Pluto rising like the phoenix. There's illumination. There's a heralding. This is a time, Aquarius, with Saturn going through your house. And, there could be so many combinations, but we know by nature that Aquarius rules genius. It rules feeling alien. It rules universal consciousness and the masses and the World Wide Web and the nervous system. And I've been more and more connecting. Spirit's been showing me that when there's an Aquarius energy and you're feeling super anxious, it's because there's a truth that you may not be paying attention to, because Aquarius wants to feel a certain amount of connection. And yet, even when connection is offered, sometimes it feels awkward for them because they feel so different. And here, I think this is an opportunity to really have an illumination that we are all allowed to be different. That's the whole point. We're all supposed to be gradations of color and of light. And we aren't supposed to be cookie cutters. And inadvertently, the human experience has put us into a cookie cutter situation. So let's see where judgment could be falling, where there could be coming a real, it could be it could be an ending. It could, but it could also be a new beginning. And that new beginning could be much more authentic. That's what I feel like Saturn has evolved into, saying, I'm never going to be lazy. I'm never going to tell you, you are not going to have to work hard or, push through Father Time, but I'm also telling you that I'm going to make sure that whatever you build is strong. So build what you want. Don't build a grass hut when you want to live in a tree house. Build what you want. And that might be where the real death comes in, a death of obligation, a death of, because Aquarius, Saturn is your co-ruler. So this old feeling of I never win, it doesn't work for me, all of that gets to sit on the sidelines. Rosetta talks about parenting and teaching, having a gift for working with the youth. It'll also be your inner child. Layla is here, spending time in nature. No, I'm sorry, spending time talking to Spirit about your intentions. There's Sonia, your team. And here's Serafina. Okay, Aquarius. So you've been in the spotlight for quite some time. You've had a lot of stuff going on. And if we think about Aquarius as your first house, Aquarius rising, you're going to identify a lot with innovation, with technology, with ideas that are not always proven, because it's about, exploration into space. So here, I think this is an opportunity for a childlike innocence. Let's see. letting the divine be your teacher, letting the wisdom of what you've walked through be your teacher, in the sense of, oh, I don't need to walk through that in the same way. I know how to empower myself. Okay, Rosetta is being joined by the Baird. Layla's being joined by the King. Sonia's being joined by the Perception card, and Seraphina's being joined by the Spider. So, I think it's funny how sometimes, here we are talking about Aquarius being so innovative, which is all about new things, and at the same time, it's a fixed sign. So what I think is going on is there's going to be some sort of real coming to a conclusion, your own judgment. It doesn't feel like others are judging you. You are going to come to a conclusion about something that has historically kept you from being the authentic co-creator in this lifetime that you want to be. And I feel that this is really, the King here is about taking authority over your intentions. It's about saying, I'm not taking any prisoners. I have my Chiron in Aquarius, and Saturn has been floating over my Chiron for, it feels like forever. I have a 22-degree Chiron, and I'm pretty sure I was murdered in a past life for having thoughts that were not approved of by others in the church. So as I walk through this lifetime and I feel things happening to me, they're out of my control, I feel judgments coming towards me for people who want to blame me for the way their lives are working out because they're not aware of their co-creation. So now, as this walks through, it's my job to look at my perception from Spirit's point of view and to engage my team so that I can feel a certain amount of justice and authority about where I want to move my story forward. Because Seraphina talks about a happy change to my family, and now this feels like the 11th house again. My networks, the people I interact with, the bigger picture of what I want. I feel as if Aquarius is having an opportunity to take the Baird rules history. Saturn is in Aquarius. It is at 18 degrees. It'll move to 19 degrees, which is the Libra degree. So as you've gone through the 18th degree Virgo, processing and looking at how Saturn has maybe held you back in a way that was, making you feel depressed, or you were feeling oppressed, or you're feeling like nobody gets me. Why don't they get me? Now is the time to go, well, wait a minute. Am I getting me? Am I allowing myself to truly open up and to truly stand in authority for who I want to be? Because I think that's where the real opportunity is. And here is Spirit saying, if you feel stymied, is your perception somewhere going back and forth between what has been and what you want to birth? Because as you take it in small steps, Uranus is lightning fast, unexpected things happen. And at the same time, this willingness to just take each situation and each experience and then really examine on some level, am I participating in my story moving forward, or am I part of co-creating a stall? And if there is a stall, is that for my benefit? Because I do think that there's the potential that you'll come to the conclusion of something, and the conclusion may be that I want to be happy. I don't want to be right. I'm going to claim my happiness versus me trying to align myself to something that doesn't feel comfortable, like putting on a suit jacket that's just a half a size too small. Okay, on to our Pisces. As Jupiter has crept into the later degrees of Pisces, guess who my little March 19th Pisces dog had an explosion, an expansion of his allergies. God bless America. Okay. Well, Small, let me offer this, because the pushing to have an energy to build something is absolutely not the way to go. It actually could be that the most powerful energy you could do is maybe not give into the depression, but to give into the idea that I need rest. I've been going out for others, and I'm exhausted. And I have to say that if you have strong Mercury in your chart, you're going to feel a need to keep on the go, keep on the go, keep on the go. But this is where it gets a little bit sketchy because that'll just burn you out. So this is why I think that this particular stellium right now with Venus and Mercury being sort of like the sun shining so bright that my eyeballs cannot tell me which direction to go. It has to be my heart. And if my heart takes me back to bed for a few hours, well, good. And then you let resistance down. You allow yourself not only, I believe that the reason the human needs to sleep is because they, after 72 hours, you start to go wonk, bonk, crazy, schizo if you don't get rest. And I feel like that's the soul, like a whale. We're in this human experience swimming around in this dense energy that doesn't really work for us. And if we don't go to sleep and take off the resistance and reconnect through our dream time to higher realms of our existence, we will lose our minds. So please don't think of it as something that's a luxury. That's part of this whole renovation, is to take the things that we feel are luxurious, that we throw away. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that fun thing. I got to get this done. That's off the table, people. And when we start to realize that when we put focus on that relaxation, that recreation, that rest time, we are better suited to go into our work time. All right, Pisces, Le Cup of Love. The teenager of the deck is offering a cup of love. And when I look at this, the first thing I think is the horse as one foot up. There's sort of this sort of a fun little gaiety to the prance of the horse. And then we clearly can see the little fishies. Don't look at my manicure on this gentleman. And I think this is a real opportunity. Here we see the wings of Mercury. We see this cup of love, could be Venus. And I feel like Pisces continue to swim towards what makes you feel loved, what makes you feel joyful. This square between Neptune and Mars, we could go to a ripping away of illusions. We can also say that there is a real wonderful possibility for you to use the experiences you're having right now to create art, to create poetry. Maybe you dance your way through this. Mars would like to move a little bit. We know Mars does not like to be slowed down, but this slowdown in the retrograde is giving Mars an opportunity to see if my actions are really aligned to being successful in my endeavors. And when we're too aggressive, and this is the thing I think is the main thing with this Venus, Mercury, Sun, Pluto, it's a Pluto sextile, but it's in Scorpio, is, I can try to overpower someone, but do I respond when someone tries to overpower me? Probably not. And that's the big ticket. That to me is the big gift that this transit has to offer here. Okay, so let's look and see where the Knight of Cups shows up for Pisces. All right, Pisces, our first angel is Opal. The second is Seraphina. The third is Isabella. And the final is Layla. Hi, Chrissy. I think of myself as a spiritual therapist. That's what I think is my biggest job. I have Mercury in Scorpio. I have Neptune in Scorpio, and I have my Power of Fortune in Scorpio. And let me tell you, they're all experiencing the South Node. I didn't even bring the South Node in because it's still hovering over there in Scorpio, but it's far enough away from the planets. But I've been feeling this transit so strongly. And one of the things that's really challenged me is, doing this work. I'm not here really to predict your life, but a lot of people think I am. And what I find with my fixed signs, especially fixed moons, is they say things like, I don't want to hear that. I want it the way I want it. Why can't I have it the way I want it? And yet with that kind of verbiage in that energy coming out of their mouth, they're not even aligned to what they want and they don't see it. So I've really had to step back and be like, look, I just deliver the message. And hopefully in this lifetime, nobody's going to murder me for the message, because I'm pretty sure they did before. All right, here we go, Pisces. Opal is being joined by the Truth card. Seraphina is being joined by Merlin. Isabella is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. And Layla's being joined by the Baird. One of the things we don't really talk about very often or to any extent is the idea that Pisces rules the house of ancestors, of past lives, of habitual behaviors that the soul comes into this dense experience to retool. This is, I'll walk through that again because this time I'm going to remember. This time I'm going to be more aware. This time, and then we get here, and sometimes it's harder than we think. So when I'm looking at that night right now, I'm really thinking that this is an opportunity for Pisces to use Jupiter while it's still in your sign, while it's slowing down, to re-examine your beliefs. And in many respects, to be able to examine them in a way that is almost like putting yourself outside of yourself. If I was my own child, would I want my child in that relationship? Would I want my child interacting with that person that's harsh to them? Because I believe that this is God asking you to dig deeper into your truth. The challenge with Pisces is sometimes compassion gets out of balance and it becomes a little bit of an enabling, or you become so mutable that you mold into someone out of balance. And I think this is a time when Mars and your natal rulers, both the natural lord of your house and the lord of your house, are both in conversation about your beliefs. Neptune is asking you to dig deeper, and the two are both saying, are you willing to look in a new direction? Are you willing to do something different than you've done it before? Because Merlin and Seraphina are offering you a change, balance, alchemy, justice. And we know that the mutable signs love partnership. They love being around other people. I know we don't always consider them the social signs, but they are very social. And I think that this is about taking some of the 12th house challenging dynamics, the house of self-undoing. Am I offering the cup of love too much to somebody else? Because yes, the timing is right for this new venture of self-awareness and courage to speak your truth, even though there is a storm. That truth does not need to be spoken to another human being. I think it has more to do with speaking it to God and the angels, and asking and talking to God and the angels and saying, thank you for giving me the resolve to allow my own transformation rather than being absorbed into historical dynamics and what others expect of me. Because Layla is here looking for you to connect with spirit about, this is now not only the enchantment of storytelling, but this does have a lot to do with history. So when I have been overly compromising in a situation, have I inadvertently diminished the possibilities of me getting what I need? So let's just be a little radical here. Let's say you're a Pisces and you're dealing with someone who has substance abuse issues. While they may love you, can they love you the way you need to be loved? Are they available emotionally? Or are they so in the fog that they can't be there? And that's where you get to be a little bit more intentional about what you need. Yes, the timing is right for your self-respect so that you can feel the balance and the love of a happy home. And a happy home isn't flat. A happy home is really more reflected when we are in conflict and how we get to show up for each other. Oftentimes when I work with couples and they're fighting a lot, I will say to them, in the midst of your argument, stop and remind your partner that you love them. I love you. I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to be at war with you. Oh, dang. I just dropped the cards. Let me grab it. Hold on. So that's where I think we're going for Pisces. I think this is an empowerment. I think this truth card is speaking from your deepest truth, almost with like a childlike innocence. It's not about defending yourself. It's not about, proving yourself, but just an opportunity to truly come from your heart and then, let God and the angels stay very tightly connected as you start writing a new story about this. Because I don't know that it necessarily has to be about there's no death and destruction within this. This is an emotional shift. And if you are indeed in some sort of cooperative relationship with a child, with a partner, with a boss, this is actually showing up the way you would want them to show up for you and not diminishing your power within it, because that would defeat the purpose. Okay. Okay, here we go. On to our Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. And if you're new to the room, I start with the sign that is birthday month, and I'm working my way around the zodiac. It's my attempt to be fair to all signs. All right, there's the Fool. And you know, it's so interesting is I think of this as Mars. I think of this as the energy. The Fool is the first energy that it's kind of like the 0 degree of Aries in some respects, because it's coming into that physical experience, having all these hopes and dreams and desires for how my soul is going to operate through them. And on some level, when I get underneath this, I could walk off a cliff. So let's see. Let's see how this plays out, because here we are now talking about Mars retrograde in Gemini. So if I'm used to thinking resentfully, if I'm used to thinking you done me wrong, if I'm used to thinking, and acting in an aggressive way, is it actually working for me? Am I getting the results I want, or am I getting the opposite? Because if you're constantly acting the same way and getting the same results, you're the common denominator. So you might have to be a little bit brave in how you're showing up. I have no idea what y'all are talking about. I can't even, my eyeballs have done something since I turned 63 a few weeks ago, and I can barely see the chat. And I have my glasses on. Awesome possum. I think it's these times have got me so in some other place in my body that my eyes are just kind of fogging up. All right. And I'm an Aries rising, so here we go. Our first angel is Isabella. The second is Shanti. The third is Celeste, and the final is Caressa. Oh, I can't even tell you. As much as, honestly, I'm just going to say it. I feel like in so many ways, my life, the shit has been hitting the fan. One fan after another. I see that airplane movie, and I just can't help but see it, and it's spewing it everywhere. And at the same time, I keep saying to myself, I don't think I'm holding the fan or the poop right now. So I don't think I have anything that I can do about that. But I can certainly find cover. I can certainly find a way to maneuver around this. Because if I give in to my lower Martian energies, I'm going to go on a rant, and I'm going to start yelling at everybody for being an a-hole. Because a lot of people are. Just to be. And I can only assume that's Mars in retrograde, being just pissed off. All right, Aries, Isabella saying the timing is right for you to check your ego. That's me right now, totally. Shanti's the angel of peace will be your protection. That's so funny. Celeste is being joined by the networking spider card. I love that. And Caressa is being joined by the focus card. Okay. So during these crazy times of feeling like really honestly feeling so much shifting, and those of you that have been around a while, it started with the departure of Juan. This is my first kush, and I got to tell you, it's been kush ever since. And I'm not going to villainize anybody. They're doing their best to be them, but I've got to tell you, I have been so aware that it's time to get out of my ego. Get out of the idea. What good does it say you done me wrong? You hurt me. You ghosted me. You abandoned me. It's not going to change the situation for me. It's only going to put me back where I used to be. So now I want to go back to this pure energy of the Fool. What does my soul want to experience within this moment? Because Isabella offers opportunity for happiness. So where am I edging God out? Again, only being able to see with my eyes. limited vision in this physical body is retarding me from being able to see with the wisdom of my soul. And when I go and I start to be the fool about the wisdom of my soul, okay, spirit, you know what? And this is the other thing that happened. Okay, I'm so excited. So I'm kind of really freaking out about money. I had this meeting with my accountant. My income has dropped dramatically in 2022. I hate the even years, by the way. But anyway, but I'm not really in a worried state. I'm not in a freaky state about it. But I will say that I have said to Spirit, what is going on here? Why is all of this transpiring? And where's my participation? And when I look at this, my participation is get the hell out of the way. Your ego, your story of, oh, poor you, you've been this, you've been that. I've got one. Yes, the timing is right to let go of that story, because as I purport peaceful energy, I am protected. Now, this is not for the other guy. This is for me. This is what the Mars retrograde squaring Neptune. Am I going to escape? Am I going to drink my face off because I'm so pissed off? I'm so pissed I need a drink. Or am I going to be like, okay, there's a spiritual opportunity here for me to come to an awareness that allows me to shift my way of thinking, my way of being. Or if I can't shift it completely, I can slow my roll enough to let spirit inspire me to a new place, because I think it's coming into relationship with shifting your mind. Does this serve me? I think I've told you guys that over the last couple of years, every time I've gotten super, super angry at somebody, and I mean like fire bursting out of, I remember one time working on television, and this woman, Bennett, said to me, Teri, I swear you were so pissed. I saw steam coming out of your ears. That's how strong sometimes I feel I can be angry. And now I'm really starting to look at, does that anger serve me? Is it worth me getting that worked up over that situation? Or am I part of this divine disruption? Is there an opportunity for me to be at peace with myself, regardless of what another person does? Because I'm here to shift myself from the person who edges God out with my fire and my anger, and I'm here to become a hero. And there we go. Happiness awaits you, a new chapter as you're aware of your focus. My Mars ruled people, remember, you're a hero. You're here for transformation. You ruled Scorpio for the longest time before Pluto was in play. So you came here to be brave. You came here to have enough fire under your butt to say, I'm not going to do that anymore. And while I'm capable of it, I'm not going to do it. I have to tell you, so I've had this issue with the smoking, right? And ex-smokers are the worst people. Once they stop smoking, they can't stand the smell of cigarettes. I'm one of them. I'll admit it. And, so anyway, so I decided when this started, like, I guess it was last week, the end of last week, beginning of this week, I was going to write my neighbor next door a note. Now, my first inclination was, I know you're smoking in there, blah, 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 right? Just Martian, rawr. And then I said to Spirit, oh, Spirit, please guide my words right now. Help me to be productive versus just being the big, strong arm of the law. And then I found myself saying, dear so-and-so, have you smelled secondhand smoke? I have, blah. And then I had the wherewithal not only to put the note on her door, I also sent a text shot of it to the property management. So, did the woman respond to my nice note? No. Do I have interesting energy about her? Yes. But the property management people were like, Teri, that was a really nice note. Don't do that again. We'll take care of it for you. Then they sent out a note. I went through maybe 1.5 days of more cigarette smoke, and then it has been gone. It's time to be the peaceful warrior, Aries. I'm sorry if I have to tell you all my big bad stories, but that's just how I roll. And please ignore my manicure because it is bad. So that's my whole focus right now. My focus as an Aries rising, as Pluto is literally squaring me on my ascendant again. How am I going to show up? Because the destroyer never gets what she wants. Okay. Lucky's been dreaming so much lately. That late-born Pisces boy, he is just like talking in his sleep. And Okay. Here we go. On to our Tauruses. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. The Eight of Wands, news, conclusions, and endings of some kind. This is a to me, this is a very clear card because there are no people involved. So this could easily be something that has nothing to do with you personally. We'll see when we look at the angel cards, but I want to offer it this way because if there is an ending of some kind or news that comes through that is a little bit unexpected and jarring, I want you to seek the wisdom of opening a space for something bigger. To start to think of yourself as an evolved being that is now opening a new chapter, a new experience for you to implement and to ground into this physical experience, your co-creation. So I'm just going to be very, very quick, but they've been doing construction on the highway. And they put all these roadwork signs. And there was one that was right outside my bedroom window. And when there's a storm, and they had one earlier this week, the metal would just go back and forth. I mean, literally wake you up in the middle of the night thinking there was like a bomb going off. And this last week, I was like wishing that thing would go away. And then I heard a truck idling. I'm like, what is that sound? And I look out and it's city workers. And I go outside. I'm like, and I tell them my story. And the guy's like, well, I can't do anything about it, but my supervisor will be here in 10 minutes. If you just happen to walk by in 10 minutes, you could tell him about it. So I happen to walk by in 10 minutes. The sign is gone. I felt like a magical creature. And I'm offering it this way because in small doses, it will help the fixed sign of Taurus to let an ending really be a new beginning. So if there's news of an ending, if there is a conclusion of some kind, meaning we've come to some sort of rounded out place, then celebrate it because something bigger is being offered. Let's see what that is. Oh boy, yeah. Everything's at a new level. Everything is I mean, the stars, everything feels as if they're stretching and stretching for consciousness. Literally, it's not stretching for growth, it's stretching for awareness. Because it always blows my mind when they argue and they're like a huge name caller. I always wonder how they expect the person they yell at to want to hug them and kiss them and cuddle them. I always think that's a really weird way of being in a partnership. And a lot of people are that way. When they don't get what they want, they start to get overly assertive or aggressive. It doesn't work. Wouldn't work with you. Why would it work with someone else? All right, Taurus, our first angel is the angel of compassion, Grace and Antoinette. Then we have Astera, reach for the stars. Vanessa, faith or fear. And Oceana is going to talk about your emotional body. That is so amazing because 145 Club, as you trust the universe, what you're really saying is I'm trusting a bigger part of my soul. I'm trusting now that I would never throw myself under the bus like this. So if I'm experiencing something icky or disruptive, what could be the wisdom underneath that? Because, the human experience requires a victim, a perpetrator, and a hero. It's in every story. So sometimes when we play the victim, we might actually be the hero. All right, here we go. Grace and Antoinette is asking compassion in partnerships as we receive some sort of news, conclusions, or endings. Astera is saying to reach for the stars with your perception of things, go deeper. Vanessa is saying, will you stand in leadership for your faith, or will you fall and succumb to your fears? And then Oceana is here with your deeper truth. Okay, so let's offer this because I have to go deeply. Oftentimes when somebody is rejected, the focus on the rejection masks the idea or the concept that human being wasn't actually aligned to my happiness. They weren't actually really as much fun as I wanted them to be. They weren't as good in bed as I wanted them to be. They weren't as engaging as I wanted them to be. But I was so okay that I finally found somebody to be with that I let that supersede my real needs. Because here we are looking at Taurus requires not luxury, but coziness. Maybe in some instances it's luxury, but it's a coziness. It's a comfortable. Taurus by nature is going to want to take it slow and to build something from a very steady stream of influence and affluence. So if for some reason there is a partnership of some kind coming to an end, or there is a realization about an interaction with another human being that feels, I get a little sense of disappointment around it, or a little bit of, oh, wow. Sometimes when you just think someone makes a choice, and if they made a different choice, they'd be so much happier. I think that might be going on here, because Astera is saying to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires, and here's your perception. So let's just call it as I see it. If for some reason you're dating someone, or you've been in a relationship and it's been rocky and it starts to go south, as we could see things happen, maybe there's a surrender to this. Maybe that Uranus-Saturn square is liberating you from a relationship that would be erosive over the years, that would not fuel your soul, but put you into some sort of, I always think of it, the Del Taco commercial. Been there, done that, same place, same thing. Because this is about faith and having leadership rather than being stubborn in your fear. And that can happen with the bull, because Oceana is asking you to take action on your truth and to swim up through your emotional body. And the Lady of the Lake is asking you to have courage, to have resolve, to say, I matter and I'm important. And part of the Taurus energy might think I'm not that important because, they didn't treat me well as my family. I was disposable. My Taurus moon is very interesting to me, because for a long time, I didn't acknowledge that there was a certain salt of the earth about me, and I only focused on the challenging parts of being a Taurus moon. And I think right now, having compassion for yourself, and maybe even for a partner, and it could be a business partner, it could be a friend, it could be anything, because we've got Mars and Gemini. It could be a teammate, a workmate. There's a certain amount of the compassion is for yourself, because as you recognize the lack of alignment, then you can be okay with the conclusion you've drawn, or with this coming to an end of some kind. Because if you go down deep, and the Lady of the Lake is interesting because she's an 8, which is a transformational number. It's also a number of benefit and a money number. All right, I think that's it. Let's go on to Gemini. Gemini, you've had Mars running through your house of self, your first house. We go by rising signs here. Can't be easy. Can't be easy. Mars does not like to stay anywhere for so long, and it's like he's moved into the house and he's never leaving again. It's like a squatter. Okay. Oh, well, this is interesting. Mars in Capricorn is what this 3 of Pentacles represents. It represents working in a team. It also represents an opportunity to show your skills, to show a sense of mastery, and to open up for potentially new contracts. So let's see where we're going with this. Because sometimes, and at least in my personal experience, disruption has led me to actual growth closer to my dreams. It's almost as if I hadn't had that disruption, I wouldn't move towards them. So one of the first things I remember is when I wanted to move to Laguna Beach. I was in North Carolina. I've been living there for a little while. I couldn't stand it because there was no food there. My Taurus moon could not find good food there. Maybe there's good food there. I couldn't find it. And in the move home, I lost every single piece of everything I ever owned, every possession. That destructive moment in my life gave me the resolve to say, I want to live in Laguna Beach. So when I started my business, I got into an argument with this little girl that worked in the office I was in. She'd been riding me like a donkey. I got sick of it. I lost my mind. Thank you very much, Aries, rising Taurus moon. And I quit my job. And I just jumped off the ledge. I'm not telling anybody to do what I do, but I do want you to, Gemini, if there's a disruption of some kind, if Mars is breaking things up and it's, squaring Neptune for, it did it forward, it's going to do it backwards, it's going to do it forward again. So it's really going to break up something, and it's going to bring up a lot of potential points that may have seemed like minor players the first time around. And now they become more of stronger players. So let's see where this goes. Yvonne is about vulnerability. Archangel Uriel is about frustration and anger. Layla is about connecting with spirit. And Opal is about knowing that God and the angels are moving things around for you as you focus in on what you want versus what you don't want. Because they're, the number one on the docket for Mars retrograde and Mars in Gemini is fighting with teammates, workmates, siblings, my children, anybody in my neighborhood. That lady that was here earlier, Honey, I think her name was, not liking her neighbors. Totally. Oh, I love that song. David Lee Roth. Okay. Gemini, risking being vulnerable. So here you are. You're a sign of thinking. You're a sign of movement. Let's go. Let's go. And Mars in Gemini, let's double go. And now we're going backwards. So now we're frustrated. We're frustrated with our network, but there could be something going on that you can't see. Today, the spider is really hitting me as the 11th house. And I want to offer this because as you become more vulnerable and you risk thinking, you know what, if I had the everyday life I wanted, this is what it would look like. This is what I would do. The last year of my job, Lucky was still a puppy. And I ended up quitting my job when he was 2 years old. So for the 2 years prior to that, I used to drive home every day at 1:00 and walk him to pee him and poop him because I didn't have time in the morning. I had to be at work at 7 a.m. So every day I was like, someday soon, I'm going to get to walk you whenever I want. And I did not realize through all that piss and vinegar that I was putting rockets into the universe of what I wanted. So when the disruption happened, when I became this full of that woman's crap, to be honest with you, and I blew out, I was putting all my chips in for myself because I think there's something being offered for my Geminis that you can't see and you have not experienced. And you're going to have to stand with a little more about anchoring in, focusing in on it. And I think something will work out for you. And then I pull the focus card. Okay. So I think this has to do with work. I think this has to do with professional contracts, with an ability to move the story forward. And here we have a vulnerability as I risk something. And that's betting on myself. And you know what? Maybe the frustration I've been experiencing from my network of friends is exactly how I become more loyal to myself. And I do it with Spirit's help. I said to Spirit, when I jumped, I did a lot of crazy things. I called an old boyfriend who happens to be very monetarily secure. And I straight up said, will you give me $5,000? That's not that much money. For him, it's nothing. But I knew I wasn't going to be able to pay him back. And I was so angry. I was like, I need just to have this psychological, it wasn't 2 months rent. It was no money, but it was still a psychological cushion. And I became more and more loyal to myself. And I became more connected to Spirit if I'm meant to do this work, if I'm meant to actually be successful, then you start bringing the people to me that will benefit from me. And my job at that moment, Gemini, was to only focus in on Spirit starting their work on my behalf, the work I'm risking betting on myself. This whole time in history is about breaking down the old structures of 9 to 5, of I have to work and you make money and I'm just an indentured slave essentially for my 40-hour-a-week pay. These days are truly coming to an end. And the more we invest in technology and invent new things, the more platforms are offered for humans to express themselves individually and receive bounty. So I really think this is an important time for Gemini to start to think about their everyday life and what it looks like. And it's not just about work, it's about the fun too. Because you got to remember, the fun side of Mercury is flirty and social, and it likes to have a good time. And frankly, you want a Gemini at your birthday party. You want a Gemini at the holiday things because they're fun. They're fun. Hey, everybody. Hey, Susie, welcome. Hi, Mary, welcome you to our group. So good to see you. CJD, I hope I said hi to you. All right, let's go on to our Cancers. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Victory is afoot. Victory. And this is a very interesting card because there's a part of me, the minute I looked at it, you can't see who's celebrating with you just yet, Cancer. You don't know who's actually, well, there's a few people you can see, but there's some that you cannot see. Let's see where the victory comes from. Now we have to know that when we get to the Six of Wands, the character in the card has been to battle. He's gone through some things. We saw earlier the Five of Wands, that mock competition feeling, that defensive feeling. So he's conquered something. He's become aware of something. What is that? Indriel, the light worker. Fiona, Maya, and Astera. I've been resonating a lot with the idea that we talk traditionally that Cancer rules the mother energy, which is true, and it rules the fourth house. But I've been becoming more engaged in the idea that the parent that's most in the public eye is represented in the 10th house. The fourth house feels like it's sitting underneath an unseen house. And as I'm looking at this, I'm starting to think that maybe part of the Cancer energy is to feel seen by the people around you. And when I say seen, I don't mean just they see you with their eyes, but they feel your intention, they feel your nurturing, they feel your love, and there's starting to be a reciprocal energy. Indriel's being joined by the frog. Fiona's being joined by the risk card. Maya's being joined by the fear card. And Astera's being joined by the transformational death card. So here we go. So one of the challenges about Cancer is the crab goes sideways, right? So sometimes when we're going like this, we're not really making any progress. There is absolutely on the books, on the docket, an opportunity for you to start to really have an epiphany. Indriel is the light worker, and the frog represents the cleaning of the mind. Now, we're never going to erase our mind, but we can be aware of our thoughts. We can see a pattern thought, and then we can start to go to the next higher vibrational thought. I'm so pissed at that person. I'm so glad I didn't act out on it. I want to just kill them, but I didn't. Those are higher vibrational thoughts, because Fiona is talking about, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving the help, and there's the risk. Cancer, inadvertently, if you're feeling insecure for some reason, you may want to take action, and I don't think you should, because your victory really comes from now your connection to knowing that there is a certain baton pass, because Maya is about schooling and education, and there's the fear card. And there is a good possibility that you're acting on a fear that is not coming to fruition, that you are actually stepping into a new vibration, but you're in such a habit of feeling emotionally vulnerable. I think of all the signs, Cancer might have been the most affected by this whole isolation that COVID fostered, and then the weird after effect of it, because it feels like people didn't get more compassionate to one another. They got more angry and more impatient with one another. So now your victory comes as you allow for yourself to start to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires, and don't compromise. This death card is not death. It's a transformation. One of the things that I think has given me the most comfort is the older I get, the more I do this work, the more I realize that I'm not here as Teri Hunter, the human. I'm here to work in tandem with spirit. And, part of my job is to be brave. Part of my job is to be fearful. And the continued journey of how fear is actually the seedling for empowerment. It's the seedling for accomplishment. It's the seedling to feel like a powerful co-creator. And as I become more aware of my co-creation, doesn't just start with me, going to do something, but rather stopping and being aware of my being energy before I launch into my endeavor. That's where I think you're going to be victorious, because I think inadvertently you've been making a lot of decisions based on fear, and now you're going to risk a bigger story. waiting for inspired action. Inspired action is sort of this weird feeling of, I don't know why I want to do this. I just want to go that direction. Oh, there. Okay. I'll give you an example. I'm in my house. I'm pulling the Christmas tree out. I got half my decorations out there, everywhere. And then I hear this truck humming. Hum, 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 hum. I live on a huge highway. Not unusual to hear traffic. But then I'm like, I need to go look and see what that is. Part of me feels like Gladys Kravitz when I stick my nose out the window, like I'm just being a nosy neighbor. And then the other part of me is like, oh my God, that's a city worker. I go out there, and because I have been too Martian in the past and too aggressive, rather than walking up to the guy like he personally tried to put the sign up to bug me, I was really nice and I explained to him my story. And then I was magical because they removed the sign altogether. You can be magical, Cancer, as you're willing to really recognize that part of your journey right now is to tap into your intuition, to nurture the emotional body, and to recognize whether you're nurturing it from fear or faith. And faith is not having an answer. Faith is having an intention, but not an answer. Because as you hold the intention, the answer will reveal itself. Okay, let's go on to our Leos, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. I did. I felt like such a magical creature. It made my day. Because the night before there was a huge storm, it rained, and there's already things that creak and blow and all this stuff. But that the sound of that metal, I just don't even know what to tell you. It drives me nuts. All right, Leo, the Page of Pentacles. Something is starting to materialize in the 3D world, and it's your job a little bit to let's see. And look at our twins here. Our little, oh, you almost look like twins with your sons. Let's see what's coming about. Because we know Saturn is been opposing your sign. And those of you that are mid-born Leos might be feeling it a little bit more. It's not easy when there's that opposition, but there's also that opportunity to really slow down Saturn and then take, are you willing to risk? Because that's what Leo is. Leo is a big gamble. Gamble on yourself, gamble on your desires, gamble on your wants and dreams, gamble on romance. Let's see what's coming into the 3D world. Serafina, happy families. Serena, money. Adriana and Rosetta. Leo also rules children, although many of us are not interested or have childbearing years. So this is going to mean a couple things. Let's see if we can get some more clarity. Serafina is being joined by the Fear card. Serena is being joined by the Burden card. Adriana is being joined by the Butterfly. And Rosetta is being joined by the Joy card. Venus's energy this year, there's been a lot between the eclipses. She was involved in the eclipse that we had earlier. And a lot of that has to do with material resources, Venus showing up that way. We have watched in my country, the United States, inflation go off the charts. And I think, honestly, in this moment for Leo, it's about the courage to really stand in, am I going to default to the outside stimulus of what I'm hearing, what I'm feeling with Saturn's opposition? Because even if Saturn is not opposing you, if you're early born Leo, it may be done with that. But our late born Leos are going to start to feel it more and more as it creeps through the sign. And I think this is an opportunity to identify false evidence appearing real and to focus in on the idea that I know that all my material resources are being provided for me, because the idea of serenity right now may be completely a burden. This is what I was going to tell you earlier. I applied for Social Security. I'm of that age. I can't even believe it. But they turned me down and they said, no, you have to try again next year. So I've kind of like, all right. And then I've watched my personal finances do this in this year. And I've vacillated between fear and faith, fear and faith. And I keep feeling deeper and deeper that I have a habit of worry because I don't feel the fear really gripping me the way that it has in the past. And so I started to identify within myself that some of my quote unquote worry isn't worry. It's a imprint. So um, I started to be more serene. It hasn't been easy. I've been meditating 3-4 times a day. I've been really, trying to stretch my eyes so I can see things a little bit differently versus seeing what's right in front of my face. Because for my Leos, Adriana is leading you to some sort of divine opportunity, but part of it is going to rip something away. Their caterpillar's got to go before this butterfly can show up. And what I want to say to you is that as you're like, you know what, all my needs will be taken care of. My heart's desire is absolutely doable. And that's why I come through with this Leo energy, because part of it is about standing in leadership for the truth of what this planet is about. It's about birthing our own creative endeavors and going through the roller coaster ride of fear and faith, because I believe that more material resources are coming your way. And this is a true opportunity for you to sit back and believe that. Now let's cut to the end of that story. This last week, right after the eclipse, I'm having, my own, I'm staving off. I'm not having a meltdown, but I'm pretty dang close, which is why I brought out the Christmas tree. Because when I do art projects, I'm a Libra and a Taurus moon. Venus calms my mind. So this was like an art project. And I got a note from Social Security. They're starting my benefits at the end of December. So some of my worry has been lifted. It was confirmation that there were things that I can't see. And while I felt burdened, God was in charge of my abundance. So, Leo, this is a time to go back to basics. Be your fun self. Do fun stuff. Allow yourself to let joy, the things that feel frivolous, the things that feel like they don't move the story forward per se, let them lead the charge. Because as you do that, I think what you'll see is things start to come into your material experience that will support that vibration. And while the rest of the world and many people around the world will start to feel as if the sky is falling, those of us that are aware of our focus will start to create experiences that actually insulate us from those general experiences, and we can thrive while others feel like things are shriveling up. Okay, let's go on to our Virgos. I'm seeing some big changes in attitude as well, and some are jarring. And all I'm doing 145 Club is surrendering. I'm waiting. I can have a knee-jerk reaction to things, and I got a little Miss Know-It-All inside of my head. So what I'm doing now is just loose lips sink ships. My job is to pull myself up and kind of feel like I'm observing a situation, and then spirit will give me an inspired action. Because I think if I start to form a habit of leaving some room for something, magical things can happen that I cannot perceive, like the Social Security showing up and making me feel like, well, at least I got my rent paid. Not all of it, but half of it. All right, Virgo, no need to defend yourself. There is no fight. There is no fight. There is nothing defensive about what you need to do. This is a time to really start to relax. This guy is like, he almost looks like he has post-traumatic stress. I was thinking about you, Martina, just today. I literally was thinking of you, and I was like, gosh, I miss Martina. I want to talk to her. I wonder how she's doing. Okay, so look, this guy is so stressed out. I think he's in some sort of grip or a habit. Now, Virgo, if you think about you're a process person, you're a person who wants to kind of go about things methodically, get them done. And if for some reason you've been defending yourself, or you felt like people were, I almost want to use the word attacking you, let's find out where we're going with this, because it might be about just backing off, because here we are. Gemini is not your ruling planet, but you are ruled by the same planet. Gemini is not your ruling sign, sorry. And so even though Mars is in Gemini, well, let me think. I, for some reason, think there's something going on in Virgo right now, or with Virgo, and I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but I want to offer it this way because I think that this is about, I want to back up. I just feel right now like I want to back up and give myself some broader sight about something, because otherwise I feel as if I'm going to throw myself back into a loop of some kind, and that loop makes me feel tired. Susie, that's awesome. I have to tell you, I'm not a very good letting goer, but I'm really good at reshaping. I think that's the key to wisdom, is not to try to let it go. And inadvertently, humans keep trying to do polarizing things that they can't really do. Once you've experienced something, you can't pretend you didn't experience it. All right, Virgo. Our first angel is Rosetta. The second is Ariel. The third is Crystal. And the final is Fiona. Okay. Virgo, Rosetta is being joined by the Love card. Ariel's being joined by the High Priestess. Crystal's being joined by the Spider. And Fiona's being joined by the Water Fairy. Very interesting. Okay. I want to say this to my Virgos. If for some reason people are making you feel defensive, if you're feeling like you're being attacked, if you're feeling like you're getting a bad rap, I honestly feel like this is a time not to try to manage it, but rather just to pull back from it and allow spirit to give some sort of experience that shifts things. I was telling somebody there was a period of time with my management company where when Pluto was first squaring me, and I didn't realize it, and I was very aggressive. I mean, to the point of like obnoxious behavior, to be honest with you, in certain situations. And when I got the new management company, I thought to myself, well, you know what? They could have a whole dossier on my bad behavior, but if you don't experience my bad behavior, will the dossier have as much weight? This is what I want to say, because I don't think Virgo has bad behavior, but I do think that don't defend yourself anymore. Don't feel like you have to defend yourself. I actually feel, and if it's with your children or with some, younger people, because we've got Rosetta here, but I think that this is about loving your inner child, not defending yourself, knowing you're doing the best job you could possibly do, and you cannot be a slave to everybody. And it's time to take care of you. It's time to take care of your health and your mental health, because Ariel is telling you that new psychic and spiritual experiences are going to change the way you view yourself in the world. And there's the High Priestess. This is a double down. So it makes me think that the new moon in Sagittarius might bring something very spiritual, a belief system, a belief renovation, an experience that supports a belief that you've been nurturing, but you haven't actually been able to root it, because Crystal says, have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon that you can't see. And then there's the network card. But this is also a relationship card. And I think this may be a bigger relationship with yourself. Meaning, when I feel obligated or I've committed, I'm dependable and I'm practical, and I'm going to show up every Sunday at 11 a.m., even though I really want to go to Target, or I really want to go have brunch and drink cocktails all Sunday afternoon. Maybe you need to go drink cocktails all Sunday afternoon. Because Fiona says, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving, and now trust your emotional body and what your emotions need. I've been talking about how Mercury and Venus have been following the sun in very close proximity since September, I think. I think that's when they really started to get really close together. And with the sun being so close to the planets, I want to sort of go with the idea that the sun combusts anything it's up against, meaning the sun is shining so brightly that it dims the light of the other planet. Now, what if that dimming the light of Mercury is dimming your mind so that you can't overthink it? And what if Venus, being so close at the Taurus degree of self-worth, of the ability to make money, is asking, am I treating myself the way I want others to? Am I being loving to my own inner child? Am I letting her take a nap? She's tired. Am I letting her have fun and frivolity and being dumb and stupid? No, it's not. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, baby. So, and if you're napping it out, who cares? It's Sunday fun day. That comment is kind of very Virgonian in some ways. I got to get stuff done. It's my only day. And then I got to go give myself away 5 days a week to someone else. I think this, and it's not about always having a cocktail. Maybe it's just watching a show you like. I don't know. I really like that show, Lost Kitchen. It's probably recording right now. It's on Sunday afternoons. I will wait all week long to watch it because it's the thing I want to watch the most. I watch all I don't know why I'm weird like that. It's like I like to delay my gratification. So, Virgo, do what you love. Take care of you. Be a little frivolous this week because otherwise, I think you will be defending yourself and you may find yourself really irritated with someone else because you have done your best. And because you've been such a workhorse and you've been so consistent with it, this other party may inadvertently slap you down for wanting to take care of yourself. And we don't really need that sort of conversation on the table. You will have an inspired idea and it will come through your emotional body. Okay. On to our final sign, Libra. Oh, I haven't sung that in a long time, have I? All right, Libra, your tarot card is the Knight of Swords. This is a very fast-moving, very take no prisoners, kind of a not quite that much fun energy. Really makes me feel like he's ready to go into battle. Now, Libra's about harmony. Libra's about balance. So let's see where the potential here for, I don't know if this energy is coming towards Libra or you're displaying it. Because it's not usually natural for Libra, especially strong Libra energy. I've got that Aries and Taurus that kind of trumps my Libra. I've been stretching for my diplomacy most of my life. I'm getting better at it. Barely. All right. Our first angel is Bridget, Libra. The second is Xana. The third is Caressa. And the final is Teresa. Bridget is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. Xana is being joined by the Letting Go card. Caressa is being joined by the Joy card. And Teresa is being joined by the Perception card. Okay, so this is where I'm going with this. I do not consider myself a strong Libra energy, even though I have a double Venus influence. I think I'm just lazy. I don't think I'm very cooperative. I'm very, very Aryan that way because I want to offer it this way. I think that night is really talking about Libra in a way that, you're very cooperative. You're very, you want to create balance. And I think a little bit it's about taking no prisoners with your thoughts, with your things, and with what you want. And I don't mean it's about being combative. I don't think it's about being interruptive to somebody else. It's more about having a resolve within myself. Because Bridget says to look deeper into a situation. And now I'm wondering if Libra is honoring their emotional and their mental body in a way that is putting you first. I've had some disruption, and I've said there are certain energies that they don't really, when they come to me for readings, they look at these things as predictions. And I don't see predictions. I see momentum. I see energy. And so when someone comes and we have a certain energetic momentum going, I see something. And then they leave and they make a new decision. They decide to get assertive with their conversation, borderline aggressive or impatient, whatever. They change the dynamic of what I saw when they were here. And yet I want to take responsibility for their experience. Libra, no. This is about you right now. This is about you holding your sort of truth and looking deeper into everybody is co-creating. If somebody is having a challenge, if somebody is inadvertently pointing a finger at you because you're not being cooperative from their point of view, is that really your job to fix it, or is this about sort of continuing to move forward? And I don't know that I want to take this aggressively, but I do want it to make it very intentional. Like if I've got to move so fast that I don't have time to stop, because the protection is coming from that letting go card. And that's moving away from fear, so I get more distance. The chapter of more joy is on the table here. My manicure is really bad. And now I'm starting to worry less about other people because I realize their perceptions are different than my own. As Libra integrates their a journey of awareness, their journey of co-creation, aka their spiritual journey, you become a magical creature. You could also become a person who experienced resentment because other people are like, well, why you? Why do you get to do this? And then part of you is like, oh, well, let me give it to you. I want you to be happy too. Let me give you happiness. This is an invitation, Libra, to put yourself kind of like, not first, but one of the challenges I think with Libra, like especially when I'm doing past life readings and I see the South Node in Libra, it's a giving myself up for the partnership. And I feel like this Knight of Swords is kind of saying, continue to be a me as you're a we. Two me's make a we. So as you understand the truth of what you need for yourself, and you look deeper into the idea that certain people might perceive you in a way that is aligned to who you are, but inadvertently, it's not the entirety of who you are. So as you walk away from their perceptions or the fear of how they will react to you, you will be protected. And as you trust that you will beauty, and beauty not in the sense of my face is beautiful, beauty in the world, being able to look out at something and see the majesty of God's creation on this planet, this will help shift you. This will help anchor you. Because right now, you're going through a period of time when other people's perceptions could inadvertently derail you and make you feel like you're not valuable enough. And I feel like that would be a real mistake. Because what I think I'm walking through right now for me is I tend to make all of my clients feel like a bit of family. Maybe it's because I don't have my own family. And in doing so, I mentally take on a lot of responsibility for the outcome of their experiences. And at the same time, when I'm trying to explain to them that their alignment is off, they won't listen to me. And I can't take responsibility for that and be a good teacher. I've got to let them sit in that uncomfortable energy. And if that uncomfortable energy inadvertently distances them from me, either permanently or temporarily, I get to trust the universe. Because there's something about Libra experiencing other people kind of putting their happiness on your shoulders right now. And I don't know if it's your job. And you may inadvertently want to take on that job just because it's how you roll. I'll be happy if you're happy. You may be happy, but you may not. All right, that's it for this week. Guys, be mindful that when you're walking through this week, there's a lot of opportunities. I really want to start to encourage you to seek the wisdom of disruption. When a little poop bag shows up in your life, maybe it's an opportunity to walk through a similar situation and purport a new attitude, which actually makes you feel powerful. That is one of the things I've noticed about myself is as I become more Libran and I become more diplomatic and I become more engaging versus this sort of momentum I had of kind of being a little too pushy. I've seen people be much more cooperative and I've gotten things done much more efficiently. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please like, please subscribe if you'd like to get a reading. I'm doing, charts. You can get your natal chart, natal and transits. You can get a past life chart. You can get a synergy chart, get an angel reading. I'm available for all those things and will continue to be throughout the holidays. And I am going to be doing a new moon video this week. I'm going to get things done this week. And I've been thinking about popping up in the evening one night and just doing maybe some personal readings for you. Let you all ask one personal question. But I haven't got a complete 2 thumbs up from Spirit on that just yet. All right, guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate your being here. I appreciate your loyalty, your love, your support. God knows I need it. And I'll see you next week. And there'll be more ornaments on the tree. Peace out. Maybe that's why I want to do something at night so you can actually see my house lit up. All right, guys. Love y'all. Be gentle with yourselves because you're important and you matter.